All right, hi guys. We are going to be reading the second part of Chapter 2, The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. We last left off where Kenny was in second grade and he was talking about when he went into Mr. Allen's class to read because he was such a good reader. And who happened to be in the class? Bubhead and Byron. So that's where we're starting. Bravo! Outstanding, Mr. Watson. Your future is unlimited. Bravo! All I could do was try to figure out how to get home alive. I didn't even get out of the schoolyard before Byron and Bubhead caught up to me. A little crowd bunched up around us and everyone was real excited because they knew I was about to get jacked up. Bubhead said, "Hear that little egghead punk is?" "Leave that little clown alone," Byron said. "It's a crying shame taking him around like a circus freak." He punched me kind of soft in the arm and said, "At least you ought to make 'em pay for doing that mess. If it was me, they'd be coming out of them pockets with some folding money every time they took me around." I couldn't believe it. I think Byron was proud of me. When everybody saw Byron wasn't going to do anything to me for being smart, they all decided they better not do anything either. I still got called Egghead or Poindexter or Professor some of the time, but that wasn't bad compared to what could have happened. The other thing that people would have teased me a lot more about if they hadn't been for Byron was my eye. Mama said it wasn't important, that I was a real handsome little boy, but ever since I've been born, one of my eyeballs was kind of lazy. That means instead of looking where I tell it to look, it wanted to rest in the corner of my eye next to my nose. I had done lots of things to make it better, but none of them worked. I'd done exercises where I had to look that way, then this way, then that way, up and down and up. But when I went to look in the mirror, the eye still went back to its corner. I'd worn a patch on the other eye to make the lazy one work, but that didn't do anything either. It was fun to play like I was a pirate for a while, but that got boring too. Finally, Byron gave me some good advice. He noticed that when I talked to people, I squinched my lazy eye kind of shut, or that I put my hand on my face to cover it. I only did this 'cause it's hard to talk to someone when they're staring at your eye instead of listening to what you're saying. "Look, man," he told me, "if you don't want people to look at your messed up eye, all you gotta do is this." Byron made me stand still and look straight ahead. Then he stood on my side and told me to look at him. I turned my head to look at him. "Nah, man, keep your head straight and look at me sideways." I did it. "See, you ain't cockeyed no more. Your eyes is straight and narrow." I went to the bathroom, stood on the toilet, and leaned over to look in the mirror sideways. And Byron was right. I couldn't help smiling. Mama was right too. I was a kind of handsome little guy when I looked at myself sideways and both eyes were pointing in the same direction. Even though my older brother was Clark Elementary School god, that didn't mean I never got teased or beat up at all. I still had to fight a lot and still got called Cockeyed Kenny, and I still had people stare at my eye, and I still had to watch when they made their eyes go crossed when they were teasing me. It seemed like one of these things happened to me every day. But if it hadn't been for Byron, I knew they would have happened a whole lot more. That's why when I kind of got nervous what was going to happen if Byron ever got out of the 6th grade and went to junior high before I caught up to him. That's why I was going to send off for that book, Learn Karate in 3 weeks. And that was in the back of my comic books. The worst part about being teased was riding the school bus on those mornings when Byron and Bubhead decided they were going to skip school. We'd be standing on the corner waiting for the bus, Byron, Bubhead, and all the old thugs in one bunch, Larry Dunn, Banky, and all the young thugs in another bunch, the regular kids like Joetta in a third bunch, and me off to the side by myself. When we saw the bus about 3 blocks away, we got in line, old thugs, young thugs, regular kids, then me. It wasn't until the bus stopped and the door opened that I knew whether Bi and Bubhead were going. I hated it when Bi walked past me and said, "Give my regards to Clark, Poindexter." Some of those words were like a signal for the other kids to jump on me. But the day I stopped hating the bus so much began with those same words. We were all lined up, Give my regards to Clark Poindexter, I said, and disappeared around the back of the bus. I got on the bus, took a seat behind the driver. The days I rode, I would sit a few rows from him in the back. On the other days, the driver was the most protection. The bus drove down into public housing, and after everyone was picked up, we were headed toward Clark. But today, the bus driver did something he'd never done before. He noticed 2 kids running up late, and he stopped to let them get on. Every other time someone was late, he'd just laugh at them and tell the rest of us, "This is the only way you 2 little punks is going to learn to be punctual. I hope that fool has a pleasant walk to school." Then no matter how hard the late kid banged on the side of the bus, the driver would just take off laughing out the window. That was part 1 of my miracle that let me know something special was going to happen. As soon as the doors of the bus swung open and 2 strange new boys got on, part 2 of my miracle happened. Every once in a while, Mama would make me go to Sunday school with Joey, and even though it was just a bunch of singing and coloring in color books and listening to Mrs. Davidson, I had learned one thing. I learned about getting saved, and I learned how someone could come to you when you were feeling real bad and could take all your problems away and make you feel better. I learned that that person who saved you, your personal savior, was sent by God to protect you and help you out. When the bigger one of the 2 boys got on the bus late to the driver, he said in a real down south southern accent, "Thank you, sir, for stopping." I knew right away. I knew that God had finally gotten sick of me being teased and picked on all the time. As I looked at this new boy with his great big smile and the jacket with his holes in the sleeves and his raggedy tennis shoes and the tore up blue jeans, I knew who he was. Maybe he didn't live a million years ago, and maybe he didn't have a beard and long hair, and maybe he wasn't born under a star, but I knew anyway. I knew finally God had sent me my personal savior. As soon as the boy thanked the driver in that real polite southern country way, I jerked around the seat to see what the other kids were going to do to him. Whenever someone new came to Clark, most of the kids took some time to see what he was like. The boys would see if he was tough or weak, if he was cool or square, and the girls would like to see if he was cute or ugly. Then they decided how to treat him. I knew they weren't going to waste any time with this new guy. It was going to be real easy and real quick with him. He was like no one we'd ever seen before. He was raggedy, he was country, he was skinny, and he was smiling at everybody a mile a minute. The boy with him had to be his little brother. He looked like a shrunken up version of the big one. Everyone had stopped what they were doing and were real quiet. Some were standing up to get a better look. The older one got an even bigger smile on his face and waved real hard at everybody. The little shrunken up version of him smiled and did the same thing. And then they said, "Hey, y'all." And I knew there was someone who was going to be easier for the kids to make fun of than me. Most of the kids were just staring. Larry Dunn said, "Lordy day, look at that down-home country cornflake that the cat drugged up from Mississippi, y'all." About 1,000,000 fingers pointed at the new kids and about 1,000,000 laughs almost knocked them over. Larry Dunn threw an apple core from the back of the bus, and the new kid got his hand up just in time to block it from hitting his face. Little bits of apple exploded all over the kid and his brother and me. The other kids went wild laughing, saying, "Hey, y'all." The bus driver jumped out of his seat and stood between the new kid and Larry Dunn. You see how you kids is? This boy shows some manners and some respect, and y'all want to attack him. That's why none of y'all's ever going to be nuttin'." The bus driver was really mad. "Larry Dunn, you better sit your butt down and cut this mess out. I know you ain't pinning on folks, do you? Not with what I know about your mama." Someone said, "Ooh," and Larry sat down. The bus was real quiet. We'd never seen the driver get this mad before. He pushed the 2 new kids into the same seat as me and told them, "Don't you pay no mind to them little fools. They ain't happy lest they dragging someone down." Then he had to add, "Y'all just sit here next to Poindexter. He don't bother no one." I sat there and looked at them sideways. I didn't say anything to them, and they didn't say anything to me. But I was kind of surprised that God would send me a savior in such raggedy clothes. That's the end of chapter 2.